Welcome back, guys. So, moving on from where we last left off, I've done a little bit of work on the rear end of the trailer. So what we've got on here now is, you can see we've got the rear mud flaps on, we've got the rear tool carriers on, and the rear tail light piece on. And I've also put on the front landing legs. If I turn it upside down, actually. Front landing legs there, here and here, and we've got the underdeck storage lockers. And you'll have also seen that I have one side of the loading ramps on. So they all work perfectly well, which is good. The spring functions and everything. So what I've done now is I've got everything ready on the instructions below as per normal. I've taken it off the sprue, cleaned up all the attachment points, and I thought we'd just make this one on camera. And sometimes it's good just to build off camera first, just to kind of understand how things go together. So first thing, you need Q7 going into the part Q32, and then these are the sided parts here. So for the left hand side you've got R4, for the right hand side we've got R32. So that goes on the top, but we also need to put R7, and for the left side it's R6. And that's what gives you your orientation for getting the ramps on the right way. So again, it's just a case of coming in with extra thin, a generous amount over the end, and then it just slots in place. Press and hold. Let the glue do its job. Same with the centerpiece here. So just drop a glue there, and then we can come in with the, this is actually the rear of the piece. Obviously this is the deck that the vehicles use to drive onto the trailer. So starting from one end, just apply the extra thin. Make sure it's square, and then just squeeze it down. Same on this side. And of course they get stuff all over there and get the thumb fingerprint in. So I'll have to let that dry off a little, and then we can just buff that out with the sander. And then up to the top. And I found the other one, I just needed to peg this part a little bit, just to give the glue a chance to bite into the bonding surfaces and get you good adherence. So just the good old-fashioned silicone cushion peg. Just get it in there, get that nip down, and one on the top. There we go. Right. So whilst that's doing that, we've got this lower piece to make up. So this piece here, it's always good to orientate just as it is in the picture. So that piece then goes in there, and we've got the pivot bar Notice it's got a little keyway on the end, so that then just orientates and goes through that centerpiece. This is where you need about 2 extra pairs of hands. That goes in. There we go. Right, that's in. That, don't glue that, because it is designed to slide along that pin depending on where you need to position the ramps to get the vehicle to access the trailer. Right. And I've just dropped it off. Happy days. So I'm just trying to line up the 2 sides so we've not got too much cleanup to do here. It's lining up reasonably well. So that's bitten up nicely, so it is in a suitable position to get this put back in properly. So that just slides through like so, and then we need to get the kind of recoil spring mechanism. So the first end goes through the trailer there, so that goes through the slot in that Q7 we put in, and then we bring this piece up here. Have I got that the right way around? Yes, I do. So just need to align the 2 together and then get that on like so. And then we've got these tacks, they're calling them, but these pins. You just need to go steady. You don't want to ping these across the room, because if they go, you'll never find them. And they go from the outside to the inside. There we go. So it's just a case of lining up the holes, and the pin slides through. And then we need to do the same on this top retaining pin. And then we'll come in with some super glue just to prevent them from coming out again. So obviously we need to retain them in there. It's a bit tight to fit on the top. And of course, when you're doing it on camera, it's always more tricky. So just, maybe there's a bit of flash in there. Just check and get a little ream just to help clearance. You could always run a drill bit through if it's still not going to work. I did get the other one in okay, so it's maybe just a small bit of flash that needs to be bypassed. There we go. That's it. Right, so now with the pins in location, just slide them back a fraction. So we've got a gap between the head and the plastic. And then what we'll do is we'll put a drop of super glue between the head and the plastic just to hold those pins in place and we don't lose them. So with our super glue applicator, Actually, that super glue's going off. It's been there for a little while. Let's find the glue. There we go. So just drop a glue just on the retaining pin shaft, just behind the head of the pin, and then squeeze it back into location. That will draw glue into the hole that the pin seats, and it will affix it in place. And then what we can do is come to the other side and then just put some glue on the other side, and that'll securely bond that pin into that pivot hole. We do that both sides. There we go. And then just a gentle manipulation just to free off any glue that might have bonded up, and that's a working part. Excellent. Now we need this part here because it's the hinge. There's a little bit of flash on the inside of it. And if you look at the part, it is sided. You've got this clamp on that side, that's to go to the outside, and it's to clamp on the end of the pin, and then this plain side is the inside. And that pin there, actually the instructions are wrong. No, I'm right. That, oh no, I'm right. Yeah, I've got it the wrong way around. So that pin with that locating mark goes on the exterior, locks into the exterior hinge point, and this one obviously goes on the interior, and I found it was easier just to locate it on the shaft before I tried to locate the ramp onto the back of the vehicle. So I get that shot, hopefully. There's a notch on the inside of the hinge for the pin to go into, so just locate that pin in there, and then just turn the whole assembly and locate the second pivot point into the back of the trailer. It's quite a tight fit, so if you just hold it in place and then come in with a bit, just readjust my hands, it will come in with a bit of extra thin, that just lubricates the locating tab as it goes through the plastic into the rear chassis. There we go, that's it started. Once it's started, and you can just use your tweezers just to manipulate it in. It is very tight. To zoom out just a little bit because I'm struggling to get it into frame. There we go. So just again come in with some extra thin, tap it around the part, and then just being careful not to disturb any of the other parts. Right, that's actually gotten home, that's good. And then we need to locate this bar into the end there, like so, and rotate the shaft so the shaft then seats in the little keyway that that pin locks into, and we can just glue around the end of the shaft. A little bit of extra glue around that pivot point. There we go, and that's both the ramps on. Now we've got some grab handles we need to put on. There's one on the side here, along with a tie down point, and this is very, very small, so be very careful. This is the chain and tie down point for the ramps to hold them in the upright position, and we'll get all that done before we paint it so it's solid, because I am actually going to glue these ramps in position because I don't need them to go up and down. We just need to make sure that we've got the right width for the Abrams tank that's going on the back. I'm not having a great night tonight with these parts. Try it again. There we go. So that's that part in, and then we've got this handle here. That locates in there. And then finally, there's a handle here at the top. That locates in there. There we go. So that's where you see the two handles locating, and you can see these things now can slide in and out to get the right width for whatever vehicle is going on them. And then the spring works like so. This side's a bit easier. But like I said, we're getting a vehicle on here and it'll be stowed properly, so we don't need to have these operational. There is a fastening chain that goes on. The fastening chain goes on from this eye bolt here, and it will go down somewhere in here. I haven't got that far yet in the instructions. So the next thing to do is to make up the photo etch for the rear marker lights, reflectors, and the rear hazard warning beacon. So we've got these last two parts on photo etch fret SB, and they're actually not too bad to make. And again, if you just have a set of bending pliers, you'll have no problem. So first off, we need to make this part 8, SB8. So just cut it from the fret, file, clear off the burrs. There we go. Right, so Tamiya short nose bending pliers, and there is a convenient diagram here on how this thing is supposed to bend. So first things first, we want to bend this topmost tab over like so, 90 degrees, simple bend. Then we have the top piece to bend over, and you can see where all the etched bend lines are. So that bends over 90 degrees. And then we need to bend, if you set that one over the diagram like so, then you know you have to bend this one opposite way, 90 degrees. Just line up your bending pliers to the bend line and then just bend. Doesn't matter if you bend over slightly, you can always tweak it back. And then finally, the last piece here, 90 degrees. Pop it over the diagram, And that's just about a perfect match, which is just spot on. It doesn't matter if it's slightly out of alignment, you'll get opportunity when you come to fit it to the rear of the trailer unit, and it'll pull itself into shape. And I have found the photo etch on this vehicle to be absolutely fantastic. Not too thick, not too thin, very, very simple to bend. Right, and that's good to see that sheet finished. Again, come in, just smooth away any burring. Very, very careful when you're going across photo etch, because you do not want to let the file catch and burr. Right. So this part, you've got a number of different folds. So first things first is we'll fold up the way this end piece 90 degrees, and it really does fold beautifully. And then we take this piece here 90 degrees, and you probably would even get away with doing this with tweezers, because the etched bend line is very, very good. In fact, we'll be able to bend that now without any bending pliers whatsoever. So they're all slightly over 90 degrees, nothing deadly. And then what we need to do is just bend here, these affixing tabs, and let's just bend that around 90 degrees. So it's all very, very simple bends. So you'll be able to do this no problem at all. Pop the part down, check these okay. Right, next job to do is to make sure we've got everything in orientation, and then that part is glued to the inside here. And there's two etched gluing areas, like so. And what I like to do is just get my sanding stick and on the smooth side, just very gently, you see, just row it in one direction. And that's just to key up those two mating surfaces, just to give the super glue a little bit extra chance for gluing up and holding. So just make sure all the angles are correct. Doesn't matter if you trial fit a couple of times. Always best to do it twice and get it right, and do it once and get it wrong. So just dip those two joining surfaces in the super glue reservoir, and then very carefully line them up to the part, and then press and hold. Just give it a moment for the glue to flash off, and there we go. Right, so that's the part ready to receive the clear parts. So we've got here, this is GP3 sprue, and we're using number 5 off that sprue for the marker light. So there is 2 side markers. No, what am I saying? Yeah, there's 1 side marker and a reflector, and then 2 rear markers and a reflector, plus the amber beacon. Well, the amber beacon we'll put on at the very last, because it needs all to be painted before the amber beacon goes in place. So GP5s, sorry, GP3 number 5s. And this is where you do need a good pair of reasonably pointed tweezers, that you can pick these parts up, and you just want to dip the back of it in the reservoir, and then it fits very, very nicely onto that part with the locating holes that are there. So there's the side marker, and then for the rear marker lights, make sure we've obviously got it right around, dip it and stick it. Classic moment there of a little bit of super glue on your tweezers, and then you don't want to let the part go, but just periodically wipe the tips of the tweezers to make sure you don't have any of those problems. last one, dip and stick. There we go. They locate very, very well. Right, and the last bits to put on there before we attach it to the trailer are these ones here on fret SC, and they are SC5, and it's the reflectors, red reflectors. Trying to make your cuts neat. These things are that small, it'd be nearly impossible to hold them and clean them up. Right, super glue applicator. Just burn off the old glue. So you can see there's a raised area here and a recessed area here, but they're both kind of an oval type shape, and that is just where we need to seat the reflectors. So a reasonable application of glue. You don't need to go overboard because it will obviously pan out as you set these parts on. Now what I found to do is try and orientate the part with sticking the reflector 2 in the right place, so it just drops down and seats perfectly, because you don't want it to bite really quickly and then not be able to maneuver it. There we go, and that's it. This one's a bit easier because it's obviously a recess rather as an embossed platform. So just in the center. There we go. And again, just pick it up. Locate that part so it matches the orientation, and then you just drop and then maneuver and press, and that's that part home. Excellent, so now we are ready to put that part on the trailer. Right, so looking at the rear of the trailer, I just set that there, that should hold it. Perfect, that's supporting it nicely. So you can see here we've got the end of the mudguard, and that bottom lip on the right angle of the bottom of the L, or the end of the L, hooks on the top of that and holds it in place, and that's where we need to glue it first. And that bracket is designed to hold the end of the mud flap. So with a good application of glue, and this is I found it kind of tricky on the other side, but you just got to support the trailer and put it in a decent angle that works for you. Take the part and then just hook it over the end of the mud flap, because that's the one that we're joining it to, and then you need just to come in with the pointed tweezers and squeeze it home, so you get a good strong bond. Then once that's in place, you want to come in with your glue applicator, a little touch more glue, and you want to glue this top edge in first, because that's the edge we put folded down the glue in tab. So that glue just on there, reposition the part. When you're happy, press down and it'll bond. And that's it, it's as simple as that. And that's how you get the part in. And on the trailer you can see it sitting on top of the mud flap, and then obviously glued to the trailer. And then what we can do is I'll need to do a little bit more super glue because it's drying out pretty quickly tonight. Just a wee drop of super glue extra. Clean off the applicator. As we'll come in with the super glue there, and we'll just run it down that joint. If I get that in frame. Yeah. So you just want to run it down the joint there between the metal and the plastic, just to give you a bit of extra bond. And then the other thing we can do is just run drop a super glue down here at the back of the mudguard, just to give you a bit of extra support. And that should be plenty then. Right, so that is part 18 done. And we really are starting to press through this build, which is fantastic because it feels like it's been going on for a month of Sundays. Just clean off my applicator. So, from part 18, we now move on to part 19, obviously. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? That's 21. There we go. So we've got we've done both sides, thankfully. We did them. So we've done that first part. This is the way I've been doing the build. So what we need to do now is we've got a lot of plastic rings to put in. Oh my lord. Right, so we've got P4 times 22. So that's all the fastening rings. And then we need 2 P4s here to make up the chain to hold these in place. So I'll probably do that first. And then we've got all these photo etch panel parts to go and fill all these areas in as well. God blimey. And then there's some snatch blocks to make up. Where they're going to get stowed, I don't know. Was there photo etch to go on the deck? Oh, I missed a bit. Oh yeah, I missed a bit of 17, so there's also a little bit of photo etch here to go on the front areas of the trailer deck, so I'll need to get those done as well. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go away. I don't think you need to see me glue all these P4 parts in. They're just D-rings. So I'll get those parts in and we'll get the chain sorted out. And then what I'll do is I will bend up the bulk of these parts, but leave a couple if there's some interesting bends to do. So you can just see me doing a little bit more photo etch work, and then we'll get all these parts in, make up these snatch blocks. And then we're really onto the bits here where we're putting in these track spacers, which we can't really glue down until we make up the Abrams, because that's what's going to dictate the width of the track. But we can make them up anyway and set them on the deck. And then we've got these parts to go in. I'm not sure quite what they are. Possibly more track spacers. Yeah, we are really flying through the build. And then it's just a case of making up the chocks, the locking chocks for the tanks. So I will press on then. We'll get all these D-rings in, and we'll get the bulk of the photo etch work done. So when we come back, it'll just be to finish off the photo etch work and insert it. Although it might be handy to leave it off while we paint it, because we'll be able to get down the way. We'll have a ponder on that. We'll get it ready to go in anyway. We'll get the snatch blocks made up, and we'll get these rear ramps in stowed position, and then we can push ahead. But I would imagine in the next by the end of this episode, we'll have this trailer unit finished, and we can move on to painting, which is really what we've been looking for. So see you back shortly. Right, welcome back, and as you can see, oh, I've lost one I haven't glued. We complete the trailer. Huzzah! I hear you say. It's been a task and a half. Now, I know I said I was going to come back and look at these deck fittings. I'll be quite honest with you. It was a very, very simple, get that to focus, there we go, double right angle fold. So we folded up this piece here, and then we folded over these 3 tabs. Very, very simple, and you've seen me do enough folding work with the photo etch for the cab and other parts of the vehicle. So we made up these parts here. They just clip in and they fit really rather nicely. And they are supposed to be removable panels, and they're holding spacers. You can see here that I've got the track slides, I suppose they are. These things are designed to stop the sideways shift of a vehicle when they're on the trailer, so it catches the tracks and stops them moving from side to side. And the spare ones are stowed on these parts here. These ones are removable, but they're a lot tighter with these parts on, so it doesn't really matter. We've also got the adjustable track stops here on the front. I've still got the ones to build on the rear. I'm only going to build them once I've got the Abrams in place, and then we can get them fastened under the track. We've got, if we hold that up to the camera, you can see the fastening chains holding the loading ramps, and you do need to alter them a little. I'll see if I can take a photo maybe. Hopefully you can see that where the chain fastens to the eye bolt on the loading ramp, I've actually got a link from a bigger piece of brass or copper chain that I had in my spares box. So you could do it with a piece of fuse wire or whatever, but the size of the chain link that comes in the kit, it's not open enough to go and fit around the eye bolt. So what I did was get a pick, and it was just a straight pick. So got that, and then just gently work that up through the link to round the link out, because it's kind of an elongated oval, the ones that come in the kit. And that then gave it enough size to fit the larger copper link, which fit through the eye bolt. And to be quite honest with you, it actually looks quite realistic, and I'm quite happy. The D ring that's on the rear deck that it fastens to here, then same thing again, just the piece of chain link that fastens around, or the D link goes through. You need to widen it out with the same idea, just for that round pick, just to elongate the hole. And you can get that to fit nicely. These ones are still loose, and they just pop in there on the back. Other things that are folded were these back markers. Again, it's just right angle bends. I think we showed that on the video. And then that was really it. I mean, that's the end of it, to the point now we can actually start painting. And once we get all the first primary colors down, and we can get the secondary color down, and we'll paint up the connecting rods after we've put the inner wheels on, then see, these are all movable. Then we'll be able to, oh, that's a bit stiff, that one. I must have got some glue on that. That could be fun. There we go. That's eased off. Whew, I'll stop a moment there. So we'll get this into paint now. So I'm going to look at putting the primer coat down, which is the same as that we did on the tractor unit. So it's going to be a dark green, NATO green type color. And then we'll come in with our mix of desert sand. And then once we've got the base colors down, and we've got here, this is how I remove the wheels from the sprue. And you'll see on the sprue that there was a part of the wheels that come in a double molding. So I've just retained the sprue gate in between it, drilled it, and then glued it to a cocktail stick just to aid painting. Little tip for you. Otherwise, what I've done is a couple of sets I've made already, and I've just super glued them to, on the inside where you're not going to see, super glue them to the tip of the the cocktail stick, and we'll spray them up. So that's where we're at. So it's been an absolute mammoth build, and there's as much work I think you'll see that's gone into this trailer unit that went into the tractor unit. I mean, it really is a seriously challenging kit, to say the least. There's no getting around it. Not for the faint-hearted, definitely not for a beginner, but for somebody that wants a more rewarding build and wants a very interesting subject, you're not going to go far wrong picking one of these kits up. The detail is absolutely stunning. But it's just the start. As I said, it's ready for paint, and paint is what I'm going to do next. So I think this will probably be, when I get it edited, this is going to be a reasonably short final sort of build segment for this series. Once we've got this complete, then we're going to start getting obviously heavily involved in the painting, weathering, and completing of the recovery transporter unit, and then we're going to move on to the Abrams to go on the back. So we really are going to reach that light at the end of the tunnel moment. Really quite happy how it's all turned out, and really excited to get paint on. So as always, if you have any comments or questions, please just pop them down below. I do appreciate everyone taking time to comment, and I will make time to read and answer every comment that comes in. And as always, if you want to support the channel and you haven't already, please consider subscribing. It doesn't cost anything, but it does help the channel enormously grow. So till next time, guys, thanks for watching. Stay safe and happy modeling.